Donald Trump's unusually friendly attitude toward Russian President Vladimir Putin has always raised eyebrows.
I speak to him a lot.
I mean, sure, world leaders sometimes get along, but this? Many believe Putin might have some compromising information on Trump. And given Putin's background as a former KGB officer, it's not exactly far-fetched to imagine he could have some, let's just say, unflattering files tucked away. So what could this dirt possibly be? Well, let's explore some of the most talked about theories. Roman Besmertny, a political observer, shared a blunt theory that Trump may be on the hook with Moscow, controlled by Putin. According to him, certain political moves, like the idea of a so-called peace memorandum between Ukraine and Russia, are nothing more than delaying tactics, giving the Kremlin time while pretending to aim for peace. In his view, Trump should understand this. But if Trump's behavior seems off in this context, Besmertny suggests it might be because someone in Moscow is keeping a tight grip.
Well, we're going to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, and at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made.
And here's where it gets even more eyebrow-raising. Besmertny pointed out the infamous honey trap cases in London, where women were allegedly planted in high-profile men's lives, followed by blackmail or worse. He referenced how NBC once showed Trump at Moscow beauty pageants, surrounded by glamorous women.
Hey, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you can do anything.
His take? That could have been a very deliberate signal. The kind that says, we have material, and we can use it. Subtle? Not really. Of course, another widely discussed theory is the one we all heard during and after the 2016 US election. Russian assistance in Trump's political rise.
Я пользуюсь случаем, хочу поздравить его с избранием на пост президента.
Two recent books revisit this. Interference by 3 of Robert Mueller's former deputies. Mueller, being the former special counsel who led the Trump-Russia investigation, gives an inside look at the probe, detailing repeated contacts with Russian operatives and Trump's many attempts to block it, including written answers full of, "I do not recall." They avoided subpoenaing him, leaving key financial questions unanswered.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you?
But
Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with them.
Unredacted by Christopher Steele, a former British spy, takes a bolder approach. He suggests there may have been compromising material from Trump's 2013 trip to Moscow and possible secret meetings between his associates and Russian agents. In his book, Steele also warns the Kremlin is still trying to sway U.S. politics today.
Yesterday, reporters asked me if I thought President Putin was smart. I said, of course he's smart, to which I was greeted with, "Oh, that's such a terrible thing to say."
And then there's the most sensational theory of them all, Agent Krasnov. Former KGB officer Alnur Musayev once claimed that Trump was recruited by the KGB during a 1987 trip to Moscow at age 40 and given the code name Krasnov. Now, Krasnov is a pretty common Russian surname, but it comes from Krasny, meaning red, which, given the Soviet era, has its own symbolism.
Does the Russian government have any compromising material on President Trump or his family?
When President Trump visited Moscow back then, I didn't even know that he was in Moscow. Well, please just disregard these issues and don't think about this anymore again.
This isn't the first time the claims surfaced. In fact, American journalist Craig Unger explored it in his book, American Compromat. His source, former KGB agent Yuri Shvets, said Trump had been on their radar since at least 1980, when he bought hundreds of televisions from a store owned by a Soviet emigre, a business Shvets claims was actually a KGB front. By 1987, Shvets says, the KGB made their move.
I say it's better to get along with Russia than not.
When Trump came back from that trip, he suddenly bought full-page ads in major U.S. newspapers criticizing American foreign policy, to the tune of nearly $95,000.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share.
He also floated the idea of opening a Trump Tower in Moscow.
You could do a better job at negotiating an arms control agreement with the Soviets than some of these professionals who've been trying to do it for years.
I didn't say me, Mike. I said somebody has to do it. If it were me, that'd be fine. I could do it.
And that's when he started presenting himself less as a flashy businessman and more as a foreign policy commentator.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life.
Of course, the 2019 Mueller report did examine his ties to Russia and found links between the Russian government and Trump's campaign, but said it couldn't establish that there was a coordinated conspiracy. Trump's response to all of this? In 2019, when asked if he worked for Russia, he called it a big, fat hoax and said it was disgraceful to even raise the question.
It was a disgrace to the FBI. It was a disgrace to our country. And you would say that was a total witch hunt.
So, after hearing all these theories, from political strings to business motives, election interference, and even Agent Krasnov, which one sounds the most believable to you? And if that weren't enough, Trump's warm rapport with Putin might be adding tension at home, with Melania reportedly being Team Zelensky. Melania Trump. Yep, you heard that right. While her husband has been more reserved on the matter, the First Lady has reportedly been urging him not to ignore the devastation caused by Russian airstrikes in Ukraine. And guess what? She may have played a key role in pushing him to approve the latest delivery of Patriot air defense missiles to Kiev this week.
I will do what is right and what I feel it's right.
Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump shared a moment that caught everyone's attention.
I go home, I tell the First Lady, and I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit.
Clearly, Melania is paying close attention to the war in Ukraine. Now, let's not forget where the U.S. First Lady comes from. Born in 1970 behind the Iron Curtain, she grew up in the former Yugoslavia, a region that, let's just say, isn't exactly nostalgic about Russian influence. She's long admired Ronald Reagan for his role in ending the Cold War, and even now, she still speaks Slovene with her son, Baron. And fun fact, both Melania and Baron still have EU passports, so yeah, she's got some pretty strong European ties.
I grew up in Slovenia and I went to school there. I studied design and architecture.
According to the Art of Her Deal author Mary Jordan, Melania's quiet but firm stance on Ukraine is not surprising at all given she grew up in the former Yugoslavia, a country with no love for Russia. Jordan adds that Melania has more experience than other people in the cabinet trying to get her point across. It seems Melania's influence is subtle but powerful. She may not be in the spotlight, but behind the scenes, she's making her voice heard.
Melania Trump, thank you very much.
And here's something else. Her father, Viktor Kanavs, still travels back and forth to Slovenia, keeping the family updated on European affairs. Jordan says her home country is all in for Ukraine, and people over there are appalled that the United States would suddenly not be arming Ukraine anymore. That message seems to be reaching Melania loud and clear. Now, let's rewind to 2022 for a second. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion, Trump famously called Putin savvy and a genius. But Melania had a very different take. In a rare public statement, she described the war as heartbreaking and horrific, urging people to donate to the International Red Cross. That contrast didn't go unnoticed.
I'm my own person, he's his own person.
Before stepping back into her First Lady role, Melania reportedly spent 2 months brushing up on foreign affairs. Yes, 2 months. So she'd be ready to host foreign dignitaries again. And while Trump has no shortage of national security advisors, it seems the person he listens to most might just be the one sitting across the dinner table.